Liberty to me is man's ability to have a hand in his own development. Liberty is the ability to self-actualize, it's the ability to make decisions, it's the ability to grow and fail at your own will. Liberty is dangerous. There's risks in liberty, but it's the most beautiful, rewarding thing about life. So liberty is absolutely the most important thing worth fighting for.
We can also boost about Javier Milei being a citizen of Liberland. We do have now 800,000 people that applied for citizenship. So from that respect, we are a small nation. He's my close friend, but he wasn't directly involved. But now he became the foreign minister of Czech Republic. He basically left the EU and Schengen. They went inside of Liberland, kidnapped you, and they arrested you for illegally exiting Croatia. It kind of reminded me of the Soviet Union when people were leaving across the Berlin Wall.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stephen Nekhaila, chairman of the Libertarian National Committee. I'm joined here by Vít Jedlička. Is that how the correct pronunciation?
And the last one, Jedlicka. You can try one more time.
Yeah, we want J is like a Y. Okay, I should know that because my wife's name is Yelena and it's like a Y instead of a J. So Jedlicka. Okay, perfect. Well, we're here with Vít Jedlička, the president of Liberland, and I'm very excited to be here with our guest. And of course, is a micronation in southeastern Europe, and I'm excited to talk about the past, present, and future of this libertarian nation. So, welcome, Vít, and please, if you could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background before we get into why you decided to found a libertarian country?
Well, thank you again. It's a great pleasure to be here, Stephen. And for a small correction, like micronation basically means an entity that is not taken seriously too much by the neighboring countries. That's kind of the definition of that. And we are no longer a micronation in the respect that we do have now 800,000 people that applied for citizenship. So from that respect, we are a small nation, or becoming a little bit bigger than very small in that respect. It's a lot of people that feel like they're Liberlanders and they would like to have citizenship. Yes, but in that respect that we don't have too many citizens yet, we're still kind of micro. But I would say micro state is the right description of what we're building. We want to build a micro state like Singapore or like Hong Kong in Europe, really bring some true freedom to this continent, which has been overregulated and overtaxed for some time.
So I'm from Key West. We also call ourselves the Conch Republic, and you can actually get a Conch Republic passport. I know people have traveled the world with it. It's a bit different than what you're actually putting together, because Liberland, of course, is a real nation that exists between Serbia and Croatia, if that's correct. And how did all this get started, and what guided the philosophy of founding this? What gave you this idea?
Well, fun fact, actually, when I'm thinking back about the foundation, we were there like two guys basically that founded Libertarian Party back in the days in Czech Republic, which just made it to the parliament and quite successfully also part of the government. So that's quite exciting. But I was there with another guy in the very early days, just before Liberland got started, like 1 week before we went there and we stick the flag. And I just remembered actually the guy that was there is my close friend, but he wasn't directly involved. But now he became the foreign minister of Czech Republic. Around a week ago, he just became the foreign minister. And he, of course, is also proud Liberlander. So like back in the days, we just started a political party, and there was like 15 years of like really no success. But now finally, it seems like the pendulum of liberty is swinging, and a lot of like my friends are actually becoming part of the government in Czech Republic, because people are literally fed up with these old systems. And yes, it's possible to do some sort of reform, and I hope they will be successful. All of these like friends from good old days when we were fighting for more freedom in Czech Republic. But when I was in one of the discussions with one of the socialists back in 2014, actually, I was saying, I would like to turn Czech Republic more into Switzerland. And he told me there is not enough Swiss people in Czech Republic. It's very difficult to do that. And I told him, oh, yes, you're actually correct. We need to start a new country. And that kind of got things rolling in the way it went. And by the way, I'm now in Switzerland for this major conference. It's called San Moritz Financial Conference, and then heading to Davos, where Liberland for the first time has a house. So there are lots of things rolling. But yes, in the early days, it was just founding a Libertarian party, which is called the Free Citizens Party. You can look it up. And there was also, by the way, a big internal fight in that party, and a lot of people left. But I'm quite happy about the people that remained, and we were stubborn enough to make it into the politics, because those were the true, I would say, right-wing libertarians that I'm quite well connected to.
Well, that's an amazing story, and it's always good to hear about libertarian parties around the world that are successful, which many in Europe and of course Latin America, as we know, are very successful. In my opinion, there seems to be a sort of global libertarian resurgence, if you will. There's libertarian parties popping up everywhere. I'm sure you've seen it in Europe and Latin America, especially after Javier Milei. Have you seen a lot of renewed interest in Liberland and applications to actually become a citizen of Liberland, and how would people actually do that, and what does that entail? What does that grant them if they join, become a citizen of Liberland?
We can also boost about Javier Milei being a citizen of Liberland, and now we've got like citizenship of Liberland kind of, like we basically get foreign ministers and presidents of other countries as citizens recently, which is quite nice. And yes, like there has been quite a steady inflow of new people into Liberland. Very recently we had 790,000, and now it's 807,000. So the numbers are growing quite rapidly, and we're, I would say, making headlines again all around the world when it comes to these ideas. And yes, like we're kind of making people that are libertarians around the world remember that they are actually part of one nation that also deserves to have a homeland. So that's what we're working on. And of course, like Liberland is not restricted to just the 7 square kilometers of land in Liberland itself. We want to be everywhere in some respect, but this sovereignty element, which we were able to get with Liberland, or the fact that we could get a nice piece of land inside of Europe by just sticking a flag there, I think is quite valuable. And as you know, it's probably quite difficult to build, find a no man's land somewhere else around the world. That doesn't mean that everything is finished. Our relations with Croatia are still a bit chilly. But yes, people are building in Liberland, people are living in Liberland, even though it's pretty freezing now. We've got pretty tough winter, but it's short. Unlike in the rest of Europe, it just takes 3 months. And we have managed to improve the relations with Croatia quite a bit. And right now we're having our own elections. We have our own set of laws as well. We're not anarchist society. We're really like a bunch of minarchist guys, but we're looking into how to not just create the minimum amount of regulation, but also invite competition into things like justice system, like policing, even diplomacy. So we're building IT systems, not just on blockchain, but for example, our mobile app literally allows anybody to become policeman or judge within a couple of minutes, and then make living even out of it in Liberland.
So it seems like Liberland embraces sort of a free market system, even in government. Would that be fair to say? Is it sort of an experiment in minarchist government, in the sense of the rightful use of force being the most minimal possible, while still maintaining some rule of law? And do you have any philosophical arguments over the direction of Liberland, or is everybody pretty aligned? I'm sure as libertarians, there's always a lot of opinions, but how has it been working out?
I would say there is quite a bit of internal consistency when it comes to what we want to do next step. We had a interesting story with our CTO that tried to basically make some sort of coup inside of Liberland 2 months ago. That was a lot of fun. But it also proved that there is this like pretty big cohesion inside of Liberland, that if somebody goes and tries to steal the domain or tries to do some silly stuff, that he gets to be like tamed in pretty quickly. But at least like we know that, I guess, libertarians in general are kind of eager to overthrow their own government, no matter how small it is. We have seen that element already happening in Liberland. And yes, like our governance, basically, our governance system is private. We basically, our Congress is a board of directors of a corporation, and you can become member of that corporation by becoming citizen. Then you get number of shares that give you the voting power. And yes, if you contribute more to Liberland, you have higher voting power, not just for Congress, but also for the laws themselves, because the laws are actually voted in separately by all merit holders. So yes, we did our job. We created a nice decentralized autonomous organization where the merit holders are making the positive decisions. But what is important, we do have a break. There is a democratic break, a similar one that is here in Switzerland, called public veto. The majority of citizens can veto any person out of this governance system or any law that they don't like. And there is also Republican break. So we have a strong constitution, and we say like this corporation that runs Liberland cannot do these and these and these things because they would be against constitution. So there is this break with the Constitutional Court. And then there is another break, which is the break by Senate. It also has the veto power in the system, and senators are the people that have contributed the most finances, or the people that were actually behind some recognition of other country. That is also another quite important definition of how people can become senators. So it's kind of the House of Lords of Liberland, which gives it an additional layer of stability. And yes, like there is nothing public in Liberland. Everything in Liberland is private. Some people had kind of problem with it, but I think it would be a basic mistake if we had some sort of public property. No, everything in Liberland has a private owner.
The tragedy of the commons, and also the state, I guess, would need to tax or do something in order to maintain it. So it's really a true experiment in private libertarian society. It seems to be working. I want to go back before I ask you a bunch of questions about the future of Liberland and the present. I want to go back to its founding, and particularly, I think something most curious is how did you essentially homestead Liberland, and how did the neighboring governments react? And did you get any pushback from either local or neighboring nations like Serbia and Croatia, or international bodies? And was it difficult to sort of integrate into Europe as a whole? Were you readily accepted? How was the process for you, and how does it feel now?
Well, when we stick the flag there on 13th of April 2015, that was the birthday of Thomas Jefferson, by the way, we had like 11 days of pretty crazy media time. Like almost all the world media just informed about creation of new country, and it became very, very virally popular among mainstream media. And then on 21st of April 2015, there was this statement by Serbian government, which said that they don't mind creation of Liberland on this territory because it's not infringing on their borders. And that actually freaked out Croatia, because Croatia had never claimed this territory. And they immediately made a bunch of actions. They created like a secret group within the government to deal with Liberland, and they met the day after. We were lucky to have one Liberlander inside of that meeting, so we knew what was going on. And they decided they will call Liberland an internet joke, and that we should not be treated seriously. But on the other hand, they made all these steps to make it extra difficult for us to even come to Liberland. So it started, and it took almost 8 years when people were just arrested for coming close to Liberland, like even for your intention to visit Liberland. But it was nice if you managed to pass across the border from Croatia. You basically left the EU and Schengen. They went inside of Liberland, kidnapped you, and they arrested you for illegally exiting Croatia. It kind of reminded me of the Soviet Union when people were leaving across the Berlin Wall. Well, it was a kind of funny situation. And, they still try to because they have normally this opposite problem, like people or refugees from wherever country, Afghanistan or Syria, trying to get inside of EU to claim some welfare. That's quite a few thousands of people passed the borders there. But now they had opposite problem, like people leaving EU trying to get a little bit more freedom.
You know, there's
And it
one
was
thing.
thousands of people. It was thousands of people, but we never had this critical mass to be able to really like break this. We managed to do that in 2023 on August the 6th as part of the Floating Man Festival, which by the way is our yearly festival. It will be again in summer, this time finally for the second time in Liberland itself. So during that festival, at the end of festival, everybody just went to Liberland together and waited to get arrested just for illegally exiting Croatia again. And they didn't. Nobody arrested us. It was a little bit part of the fact that Croatia has become part of Schengen, and they could not do whatever they want with their borders. They had to like follow some procedures finally. So that was the time when we inhabited Liberland. We started building quickly. It was a crazy year because there was like lots of inflow into Liberland in general. We built some 5 houses there. By the end of September, we had like electricity grid and everything was basically set up for like a regular construction. And then on 21st of September, Croatia decided to just raid us because they could no longer like stop us. They tried to stop us on their territory, but when we were using the boats, we were using the boats, they couldn't basically Danube is international waterway. We could just bring in the materials and people. So that was the time when we got a little bit pushed back on 21st of September by Croatia. There was a big incident, a lot of fun in Croatian media, not too much economical damage for us at the time. But yes, like one of the incidents where just Croatians without any paperwork came in and tried to basically take everything. They didn't confiscate us because they didn't give us a single paper for anything that they would take. They basically invaded Liberland. But that was a fun event. And then next year we started to build more serious, and we got pushed back again. But what happened last year, since beginning of 2025, we consolidated the relations. We're building a 3-house resort in Liberland. We didn't have in whole 2025, we didn't have any major incident with them. They are still a bit pushy, but the relations really has consolidated, and it really took some time to appease them. Now we have again water system in Liberland since June last year. We have electricity system. We have now three houses there, and we're like preparing for bigger expansion early spring this year.
That's incredible. The pushback from Croatia is very interesting, and it's also very interesting. You hear about illegal immigration, but not really illegal immigration, that they would try to get you on the way out, trying to go to another country. I typically fly into Croatia on the way to Bosnia, and the border between the countries is always very interesting. But it's interesting. So Serbia, you seem to have good relationship with. The Serbs, do you have a lot of fans of Liberland in Serbia, and do they want to become citizens? Do you get tourists from Southeastern Europe or around the world?
It's even distribution, like 1% out of 1% of global population, right? Our Liberlanders are applied for citizenship. That's the 800,000 people, and they're really all around the world. And they kind of evenly distribute a little bit more than in the United States and Czech Republic for obvious reasons. But otherwise, we're really evenly distributed all around the world, including Serbia and Croatia. So in Serbia, we've got 9,000 people that applied for citizenship. In Croatia, we've got 3,000 people. And I'm here in St. Moritz with Ivan Pernar. Ivan Pernar is a former second most popular politician in Croatia. So you can see there is an interest like by Croatians as well. Ivan is a great friend and supporter. He is also our Minister of Interior right now. But that's what I like about what we're doing with Liberland. It's kind of, I don't have a better expression, but it's kind of eating the existing systems from within. Like even the like high politicians from other countries are just fed up with the existing system and they want some more radical change. Anyone is one of those like rebels inside of the Croatian, even the Serbian society, actually quite popular in Serbia, that is never complacent with any new governmental rules, or, of course, also a big believer in lower taxes and fights against all like forced vaccination pretty badly. So I think he's one of the fun liberlanders. He's also a great star on social media in Croatia. So because of him, where when Ivan is with me, basically half of Croatia is following my steps as well, because Ivan is going with me to all these nice events and conferences. So yes, like in Croatia, like the mainstream political parties are still a bit reserved to Liberland. But for example, President of Croatia is quite nice guy, quite open to the idea. He's not on very good terms with the prime minister, so he cannot help us much at this time. But the same thing applies for the Serbian president. I think his general opinion on Liberland is quite positive. We recently met actually in Switzerland. So, it's not like it's mission impossible, like people actually have open mind about it, especially if this place is still basically not claimed by neither Croatia nor Serbia. Do you understand? Like, we're not taking any land from neither of these countries. There is no economic benefit for Croatia nor Serbia from this piece of land. If Croatia would ever claim Liberland, they would lose 10 times bigger territory claim on the Serbian side of the river. And that's, of course, where Serbia doesn't want to claim it either, because then they would have to give this other land to Croatia. So it's a great situation in which Liberland has kind of protection that if Croatia is serious about winning the border dispute with Serbia, they must not claim Liberland as their territory.
That's interesting. So if you could get into that briefly, so there's a border dispute between Croatia and Serbia, and each would have to redraw the borders if they were to try to take Liberland as a part of their territory.
Yeah. They would have to basically give up their territorial claims.
Isn't that interesting? You're in a very unique position, and I think for new land to be claimed in the 21st century, and I don't necessarily mean Greenland becoming U.S. territory or anything like that, to actually discover a new piece of land and to found a country is unheard of, unless we go to space or maybe claim the Arctic. I don't know. So it's something very subversive, and I think at some level it makes governments nervous, because Liberland is based on principles of libertarianism. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about is the embrace of crypto early. Where do you think decentralized money and governance is essential to real freedom? And could that be a model for Europe and the rest of the world? Or are any leaders taking this, looking at this and saying we should be more like Liberland in some respect?
Well, of course, like we do have interest from sovereign countries looking into our governance system, like being able to organize fully transparent elections for $0.50 cost, right? And having a high degree of certainty about all the transactions that is happening within society, and having a completely transparent budgeting, and, having a court system on chain and register of property on blockchain as well. All these things are is the future, right? Like, there will be no way the countries will be able to avoid it, because it just brings about so much efficiency. We don't need 90% of bureaucrats in Liberland, because all the processes are automated. So yes, basically, as Bitcoin kind of removed the necessity for central banks, we remove the necessity from the state to hire bureaucrats. That's the main thing, and you don't have to trust anybody with any stamp, because basically all the processes are automated inside it. Like, if you're sending a piece of land to somebody, it takes 0.5 seconds. It's final within like next 2 seconds. And you really don't need a land register building with some bureaucrats in it. Everything is basically digital. The same thing applies for registering cars or things like this, right? Citizenship itself, your citizenship is basically your private key in the system. And yes, like, we have to be able to have a court system that is able to restore the access to private keys if people lose it. We have to be able to remove people's merits if they become helpful to Liberland, in that respect, that they start to steal from other people or from the government itself. We have to have that kind of jurisdictional power in Liberland, but that, of course, has to also be transparent and just. Otherwise, we will not be seen as serious entities. So we need to be able to protect ourselves against malicious actors in a transparent way on our blockchain. And yes, like people joined Liberland, they seemed like they're going to support it, but they end up like stealing cars and votes from it at the end. So or they tried to steal the domain, like this guy recently, just because he got paid from somebody to do it, right? So like there are like external elements or actors that, of course, seek some sort of benefits from Liberland outside of the existing contracts. And that's why we have this system of merits that works both ways. Like it rewards people for contributing to Liberland, but it can also punish them if they don't. And your merit account can go into minus. A couple people have minus merit accounts. So they contributed a little bit by working for us for a couple of weeks and earned some merits, but then they just stole something which was way more valuable. And we, rather than chasing them down in their own jurisdiction, we just note down it on the list of merits. And I guess the list of criminals in Liberland will be soon public, so they have a great chance to return the stuff back before they will be displayed as a people that have harmed Liberland in a criminal way in past.
So it's very interesting. So it's sort of a reputational score based on voluntary, the work done in society, and to be a part of Liberland, it's expected.
A regular share, right? But the jurisdiction of Liberland courts has the right to basically transfer the balances to a certain degree. Actually, not the whole balances, but can unstake them. If somebody commits something criminal, then the 10% a year gets to be transferred from the balance of the person that made the criminal offense to person that was harmed. And we still give the chance for the criminal to return the stuff back or return the money back. But yes, we need like a system, and it was working quite fine, to be honest with you. Like sometimes when people realize that they will be like public criminals within this new created jurisdiction, they change their mind fairly quickly and they return the money, and not just to Liberland government, but also between themselves, right? If the case is just straightforward, somebody steals 10,000 euro from somebody else for no reason but a enrichment purposes, then there is like not much debate about if it is just or not. And these people understand that their reputation and their capacity to steal from other people in the future will be seriously hampered if they become publicly known criminals inside of a new created country.
What do you say to skeptics of voluntary association or voluntary society? I have a book back there that talks all about a free market in government, and it's basically a model where people can choose the government system they want to be a part of. So instead of being based on geographic boundaries or at least on nation states, so to speak, people should be able to pick and choose, hey, I want to this government system, that government system. And from what it sounds like, this is a great voluntary experiment people can be a part of. What lessons are there that this is working? I mean, you've described some of it. There is already a judicial system in place.
It's fairly old, right? I just recently read that this book was written like 100 years ago. What is the name of the guy? I forgot it right now, but this guy that territorial sovereignty would be very, very nice to exercise in Liberland, and we can do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it as well in Liberland. That's the cool thing. Like you become a resident of Liberland, and you can be judged by courts no matter where you are around the world, and you can do your business. And this is actually the whole point of this mobile app that we're creating. So you will be able to transfer your property, offer it for rent, or sell it as well anywhere around the world. That should help to boost Liberland business. Also hire people and have contracts signed with them through the mobile app. So we're building a little bit of a business suite for Liberland businesses and Liberlanders in general. This kind of goes in line with what Balaji and his network state guys are pushing through. And yes, you can voluntarily become like part of Liberland jurisdiction and then do business just within Liberland jurisdiction. But of course, the other countries are a bit jealous if you don't pay taxes to them. Mm-hmm. If you're working somewhere else. So actually, right now, part of our dashboard is always we're trying to set people free from their own taxation and regulation first. And then we fully include them in Liberland jurisdiction. So if you're a Czech citizen, for example, or Italian, we provide you with a tax residency in Paraguay as part of the citizenship. Right now, it's like a bundle. And if you're American, we move you usually to Puerto Rico. And then when you're much freer than you would be previously. So there is like a path for anybody on the Liberland dashboard to become independent from taxes.
For those that don't know, on the American side, Puerto Rico has really, 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 really good, depending on your portfolio, tax incentives, especially for capital gains and things like that. So that's very interesting. And I
And
think,
of course, we also help Liberlanders to like get rid of the U.S. citizenship if they need to. Typically, some kids and nevis, or right now Antigua is another very popular destination. But yes, like US is a bit pain when it comes to these things. Maybe you heard the story with Roger Ver, how much
yes,
trouble he had, and he still is even not allowed to actually appear publicly and talk about his story for next 3 years in the land of the free speech.
it's something. Well, we want everybody in the crypto space who's been unlawfully arrested to be free. You know, Roger's gotten a bit of a break, and there's many other people like him that need to be liberated. So the work you guys are doing is great. And does it apply to journalists or other people seeking any kind of, I mean, is there sort of a freedom of speech apparatus to Liberland that protects people that may otherwise be arrested for, you know, is there like any sovereignty, sort of like Sweden, or these countries that host VPNs, for instance, that may be of good economic gain to Liberland as far as transcending laws in other countries where it may not be so free, if that makes sense.
Well, like in general, like in our constitution, of course, there is a freedom of expression, and it's not debatable. People are free to say whatever they want. I mean, the fun part is that, like, yes, like sometimes the people that really come and steal from Liberland have this urgency to basically then say bad things about Liberland to basically justify the fact that they have stolen, I don't know, the car or something. Like I have with this guy now, from one guy from Croatia. He's obsessed. He comments he comments something crazy under everything that I post now on Facebook. So you can actually find him quite easily.
So he'll post under this video when it's published, more than likely.
Sorry?
He'll post under this video once it's published, more than likely.
Yeah, but very likely. But it's fun fact that like these people that like commit something like straightforward criminal, then have this obsession of like fighting against Liberland just to prove the fact that they for good reason that they have stolen from Liberland because it was just to steal, right? And then they are obsessed with. But I actually don't block this guy. I kind of have fun with him, and he has some merits. He will be one of the first guys that will be trialed. He didn't hand over access to one of the houses. He has taken his like service car. He's still driving it without like returning back to Liberland. And he's making a lot of mess, actually, not just in Liberland, but in other places. But yes, like sometimes I didn't have a good opportunity to hire the right people. It was difficult. Like Croatians that worked for us in past in Croatia were under big pressure by police, by the local police, and that really filtered the people in some strange way for us, the ones that could collaborate with and couldn't. And yes, like starting a new country in Balkans in general is a challenge.
And the Balkans, of course, I mean, ex-Yugoslavia in general has gone through some tremendous strife over the last several decades, as we know. The Balkanization, so to speak, term came from when Yugoslavia, of course, turned into many other countries now, including Liberland. Do you see, is Liberland at all leading the direction in Yugoslavian or ex-Yugoslavian politics? Do you see the Balkans embracing freedom and libertarianism and what traditionally have been socialist states compared to the rest of Europe? Do you see any influence on your neighbors at all?
Well, there is a fun fact that basically our collaboration right now is not with the mainstream right-wing parties, like right-wing in the sense of European People's Party right-wing, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Like basically people that just accept whatever is sent out of Brussels and they call themselves right-wing. We don't have much context there, but we actually do have a good relations with the Socialist Party, both in Croatia as well as in Serbia. And that's where they're like we want to build socialism in Croatia because we know that's the only way to get elected. But we actually like what you guys are doing in Liberland. We don't have a problem with it in general. So that's where for example, the Minister of Economy of Vojvodina was quite supportive, came to multiple of our events, even though he's coming from a socialist party of Serbia. And they do have a still quite, interesting symbolism, this hammer, like from the good old communist times in it. But they know very well, they know that freedom works, that free market works, low taxes work. But again, like they are a bunch of kind of libertarians that just want to be elected, and they know there is not space for, there is not the mood in the Serbian society, for example, is not there yet. Like there was a mood now in Czech Republic, like this pendulum is still not there, but people don't realize that they really need to cut taxes and get rid of the green deals and stuff like that. So, but we don't care because we are not trying to make revolution in neither Croatia nor Serbia. Maybe Ivan would like to, the guy that's here with me, but that's not my business. We're building a new country on the borders between Croatia and Serbia. We want to be friends with any kind of governments that come into play in both countries.
Do political parties exist in Liberland, or at least are there different camps of diverse political opinion, or does it all kind of fall within sort of libertarian, anarchist, classical liberalism? Or do you see, different types of people, maybe people that want a government or don't want a government? How do you, and if so, how do you deal with that?
I think there are just basically two movements, but it was kind of expected, like movement that would like to have public property and like movement that doesn't. I would say it's 1 out of like 10-15% of people in Liberland folk, they want more democracy and more public property.
Mm.
But it's manageable, like it's normal that the society is not uniform, but the system has been basically designed to sustain the democratic pressures but also give democracy the say. Like democracy is a bit insane system, as you can see from different jurisdiction. I mean, I had my speech now for TEDx about it. Of course, like democracy was something that the founding fathers feared, multiple of them, right? And then a couple of 100 years later, democracy is on all monuments in the United States. And democracy was the system that in Athens killed Socrates. Like, well, let's say the most famous philosopher of all times was murdered by democracy, and that by a huge majority of people, actually. Like 288 people out of like 500 meeting voted to make him guilty, and even like a couple dozen more people voted to murder him. That was a completely democratic move by Athens, because he was saying that he doesn't know anything, and he simply couldn't handle that message. So, like, yes, like there is this general global problem that democracy has been turned into God, that God has failed. As you could read the book by Hermann Hans Hoppe, Democracy, the Good God has failed. It doesn't bring much prosperity. It doesn't bring reasonable results. It averages out the society's opinion on things and then gives average outcomes. And yes, it always leads to more socialism, more redistribution, because majority basically can dictate the minority to pay more taxes, etc. So in Liberland, we are really a meritocratic society that should really help to keep the system intact and without taxes for quite some time. And yes, like we're trying to build up a system that has the best elements of existing systems, but under the meritocratic corporate-like governance.
The Dominican preacher Savonarola in Florence, Italy, during Machiavelli's time, helped create the Florentine Senate, and he was later killed. He was basically tried and killed by that same Senate. So there seems to be a pattern. So for your sake, Vít, I hope there's no democracy in Liberland, and I hope you can keep it sort of a constitutional system. And actually, on that note, what mechanisms are put in place to keep Liberland this voluntarily associated, very minarchist society? What prevents it? Because
the Constitution, we will have a vote on Constitution. The vote is not democratic. It's a meritocratic vote. And hopefully we will be able to prepare it for 11th anniversary of Liberland, which is 13th of April. Of course, guys, you're very welcome to join us. I believe you have a convention where we got invited actually recently, right? You've got your Libertarian Party major event. What dates is it?
Oh, our convention is over Memorial Day weekend in May. So that is mid-May.
So Liberland anniversary is on 13th of April. And
Okay.
we hope to be able to prepare everything to be able to start the vote on the constitution itself. We had a major event actually in Prague before Christmas. We had people like Herman Hans Hoppe presenting, and we had a constitutional debate, and there has been like fairly big amount of agreement about the constitution and about the setup. We didn't, I mean, yes, like we're very welcoming to new ideas into constitution, but it seems like after the 10 years of debates, it kind of settled, and there is like no major disagreement about the future that Liberland is taking.
For those in the United States that are frustrated with our current system, of course, they say we live in a democracy, although if you want to run for office, it's very difficult, almost impossible in some places, if not without great financial and systematic difficulty with ballot access. Is something the Libertarian Party faces, although we do a very good job at overcoming it. But in general, our United Americans are very low in institutional trust, especially the younger generations. The same could be said, quite frankly, in Europe, even in countries like China, for that matter. It seems like the next generation, millennials, Gen Z, and most likely Gen Alpha, is upset with their government. And I think that creates fertile soil for some kind of revolution, political change, in the sense that they want something different. And as libertarians, we obviously look at individualism versus collectivism. We look at something like a meritocracy versus a democracy, a mob rule. So what are some lessons that the next generation can learn from Liberland and actually institute in their own countries to make their lives more prosperous and freer, and hopefully fix their governments?
Well, to be honest with you, right now we do have a plan for onboarding libertarian parties as a decentralized autonomous organizations themselves. So sometimes it's difficult because these laws on political parties are quite strict, but in some countries it's more open. So we would like to partner with libertarian parties all around the world. We already agreed with Turkish Libertarian Party, for example, to allow them to fully use these technologies, issue the merits of their own society, and then run the governance in line with it. So then the political parties themselves could work like a role model for the country itself. And I think it's a good way to introduce Liberland to the society in those countries and introduce it to, well, again, like if the political party can run itself on blockchain and can do it with these newly set up rules, then just flipping it to the whole country might not be that difficult at some point.
This is Freedom Dollar, FUSD, the world's first privacy-focused stablecoin built on the Zano blockchain. Unlike traditional stablecoins, FUSD is decentralized, censorship-resistant, and private by default. Each FUSD is over-collateralized with Zano and pegged to the US dollar using a decentralized algorithm. There's no CEO, no company, no central authority. FUSD is governed entirely by open-source code and community consensus. Anyone can run a market-making node to help maintain the peg and further decentralize the network. All collateral and peg data are transparently published and verifiable at freedomdollar.com. CBDCs and corporate stablecoins can be frozen, tracked, and censored. FUSD can't. Use FUSD to spend, save, or transfer stable value without giving up your freedom. Freedom Dollar, private, stable, unapologetically unbanked. freedomdollar.com.
I was going to also let you know the International Alliance of Libertarian Parties is something, it's an organization of libertarian parties all around the world that is just restarting. I'm not sure if Liberland would be interested in joining, as I don't know.
And I can bring also quite a few like libertarian parties that you probably don't even know they exist. Yes. I can bring the Czech party if they want to. Now they're in parliament, I think they're more open to send delegates. They have the finances to send delegates to do conventions, etc. Do a little bit more like international integration.
I think we need to stick together. I view the libertarian movement as a growing international movement, similar to how the socialists became an international movement. Obviously, we're the exact opposite, but we are an international movement with solidarity around the world and growing. So I think it is important that we all stick together. Vít, how does somebody join Liberland? How do they learn more, become a citizen, visit the country, and connect with you?
Well, it's fairly easy. Like you first become a resident, it just costs $150 right now. We're planning to move it into like a monthly subscription service that gives you full access to the services in the mobile app, but you can also already test how merits work, how voting works, even though you don't have a right to vote, because we wanted to really limit the voting to people that have minimum 5,000 merits to get rid of the noise in the society. Really, people have to have a stake to be able to discuss the future of Liberland with these 5,000 merits. But these 5,000 merits, you can get them in various ways. The easiest is, of course, to chip in right now $10,000 and to secure also directly the citizenship by donation. But you're actually getting the merits as a gift back from the state. Or you can help Liberland by promoting it. And there are multiple jobs in the mobile application where you can earn merits quite systematically. And one of the ways that you can earn merits is to move to Liberland. In 25 days, you gather the 5,000 merits. So we've got this citizenship by settlement program. Right now, it is mainly open to EU people because the non-EU people get still pretty pushed back by Croatia. So Americans, for example, can stay only for 7 days, and then they get in trouble with Croatia. But we need to resolve this as well. So, I mean, I'm open to having Americans being part of the program because we need to put more pressure on Croatia through traditional diplomatic channels. Like, why are Americans kicked out of Croatia just for visiting Liberland? This needs to be like resolved at some point. But to be honest with you, like, I'm quite happy that they let us live in Liberland freely with EU passports right now for unlimited amount of time without any major problems, as this is still one thing that we need to resolve with Croatia. And yes, like, for example, the little bit of pressure from like American Libertarian Party regarding the mistreatment of Americans in Croatia when it comes to Liberland would be very helpful, by the way. I think it would make sense. Like, they would have to actually reconsider this policy, at least like remove the Americans themselves from this no-go list to Liberland. That would be quite helpful.
That's very interesting. Let's talk a little bit more about that. That I would like to visit Liberland one day, and I think we need to make sure that path is clear because there's gonna be a lot of Americans interested in this, and I know they are already. Does anything similar exist crossing from Serbia, or?
No. Well, but right now, I for example, when I go to Liberland, I go from Serbia, but also this is quite sensitive, so we don't push for like people going from Serbia, the ones that they don't know. It's basically a few people that go to Liberland from Serbia, not too frequently, because it's always a source of friction. Their main focus is on like making sure that they don't get like illegal immigration into Croatia through Liberland. And we are happy that the borders from Croatia are open, so we're trying to get everybody to Liberland from Croatia. Even though you can take a nice boat ride from Serbia, we have a very nice place that is being expanded. We're building longevity clinic and spa and bigger resort in Serbia, only 5 kilometers away from Liberland, to also have some investments in Serbia and build up a goodwill. So you can visit this village that we're building called Liberland Arc Village. Usually people first come to Arc, they get some treatments or they enjoy the time there, and then they actually go to Liberland after they visit the Arc. And in Croatia itself, we're also expanding our activities. We're working with local developers, building something similar, some resort style place in Croatia as well. So we have like a decent settlement in both countries.
What inspired you to do all this? What are is there some books or some great thinkers, or what led you in life to get to this moment to be the president of Liberland? I'm curious what your
I'm
motivations were.
kind of a very Bastiat fan from early days. When I was 13, I read the book The Law. And I really like the call for action, you know, that the state has gone awkwardly wrong and we have to fix it, because instead of protecting people from stealing, it's stealing from the people itself, right? Like this was a very big line to reach from Bastiat that got me on this journey. But of course, then Murray Rothbard and all these other guys, including Herman van Zoppe, like my personal hero that basically joined us now also with Liberland Passport. All these thinkers had a great influence on me over these years. And I studied because of them, and actually because, of course, influence from my father and because of a little bit of influence from Václav Klaus as well. I decided to go to study monetary economy, and then I studied political science within the Czech system. And there was quite strong libertarians, like school of thought that was flourishing within the Czech society after the end of communism. And that's where all these now successful politicians are coming from, that finally, after all these years, you know, they made it back to the government after the green governments and crazy other governments. So I'm coming from that ideological spectrum, mainly influenced by Bastiat at the beginning in the old days.
Bastiat, for me, when I first read him in DC, I got the book from Young Americans for Liberty, and it was one of my core favorite books, along with some books by G. Edward Griffin and, of course, Murray Rothbard and others. So Frederick Bastiat is still inspiring generations of libertarians to this day, which is fantastic. Vít, is there anything else you would like the American audience to know about Liberland or you or the work that you guys are doing?
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. You know, we've got, again, Justin Sun as the prime minister. I hope he will become more active financially as well this year. We've got all these great new guys from other governments that become recently, that got into power recently, and they're also Liberland citizens. We're working hard on recognition by Caribbean countries and African countries, and having events all around the world. So next week we have an event in Davos. Liberland is one of the 11 countries that has a house in Davos, which is highly prestigious. So if any of you guys are in Davos, and yes, World Economic Forum, by the way, is also changing. The fact that they invited Javier Milei was quite surprising, and they let him do his 40-minute speech where he completely destroyed them, was a sign of, I would say, good light at the end of the tunnel when it comes also to global elite. Stop pushing for this crazy socialist global government experiment, this new world order idea, which of course has a different manifestations. But we know that the power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately. So this is one of the things which all libertarians should be very much careful about. We of course don't want a global government that would encircle everybody and limit our liberties. So that's why things like Liberland exist. That's why we have to, as the libertarians globally, to stick together, preferably also create a nation, a fully functional nation. Maybe there will be more nations like Liberland in future that help us to basically elevate our status from like a ideological movement into a traditional nation with the territory and with the country. So I would love to have you, of course, in Davos, but you are very welcome to join us also for the anniversary, and I will do my best to come to your convention in America.
That would be fantastic. I think so many people would love to hear from you and learn more and want to get involved in Liberland. And I'll say that Javier Milei, he's kind of like when the Golden Globes or the Oscars invite a comedian over to roast the audience for about 20 minutes, and everybody just watches that and they don't watch the rest. It's so amazing to see where liberty is headed in the 21st century, and there's a lot to be very optimistic about. So thank you for all the work you do in Liberland and spreading peace and liberty throughout Europe and the rest of the world. And we look forward to connecting with you very soon. Thank you so much, Vít, for being on.
Amazing. Great job you're doing, guys. Keep up good work.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy. All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll cut it there. But yeah, fantastic. Really, really interesting stuff. And
No,
hopefully I
thank
can join you.
You know, let's try to come up with some. Definitely, I would love to. In 10 years, I've never been to these Libertarian Party meetings. Where is it this year?
It's in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in a beautiful downtown area. We're really trying to get more international libertarians. For instance, the Libertarian Party of Russia is interested in joining us, and we're trying to get more representatives from the IALP, the International Alliance of Libertarian Parties, which is having its first Congress in February. The Argentinians are involved, many parties throughout Europe. So we're trying to really unite all the different countries. And we're actually incorporated in the United States in Miami, Florida. So we moved it from Switzerland to the US, and the US Libertarian Party is, of course, very supportive of the organization as well. So we're trying to get it to work for everybody.
By the way, the People's Party is pretty libertarian as well, right? You've got the contact there.
Which Libertarian Party? I'm sorry?
It's a Swiss People's Party, one of the major parties in Switzerland.
I would imagine that they're probably a member. Yeah. If not, we'll have to get them, as well as the Czechs, which we're trying to reach out to all the different libertarian parties. And if Turkey has a party, we actually had a young man reach out to us recently wanting to start a party in Turkey. So I think they should be represented as well. And, you know, trying to get everybody on board.
There is a reasonable party in Turkey, yes. All right.
Excellent.
Thanks a lot, guys. I will just jump to this other event. Have a great one.
Thank you.